that's what's more fun for me.
I spent most of my life as an actor.
It's possible that no other actor of their generation has made a more lasting impression on audiences and their colleagues than Jack Nicholson. With his roof-shaped eyebrows, glint in his eye and Cheshire cat smile, he has an irresistible charm that has seen him deliver some of the most notorious one-liners in Hollywood history. It's easy to see how and why Jack has always been popular with the ladies. He grew up thinking his grandma was his mother and his mother his sister, and was very close to both women. When his sister, June, a chorus girl, moved to LA with stars in her eyes, Jack eventually followed, landing a job as a messenger boy for MGM, observing the greats, taking acting lessons and learning from the best.
I wanted to see movie stars and watch how they made movies. And I did for 2.5 years, you know. Me and Tom and Jerry and Bill Hanna and Joe Barbera. You know, I mean, I saw Marilyn and Bogey and Betty and Lauren and Kay and Fred and Ginger and Jean and everybody I ever wanted to see, you know. And there I was, right with them. What a life.
A life that has seen Jack Nicholson's name etched into the Hollywood history books with 3 Oscar wins. Back to the beginning, though. After roles in movies like The Crybaby Killer and The Little Shop of Horrors, Nicholson became frustrated with the direction his acting was taking and decided to turn his hand to writing, penning the screenplay The Trip, which starred Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper. This led to Jack's big break as a hard-drinking lawyer in Easy Rider, directed by Hopper and starring Hopper, Fonda and Nicholson. The film is as famous as it is for behind-the-scenes debauchery as it is for glamorization of 60s counterculture and signalled a change in Hollywood. Jack scored his first Oscar nom for his efforts, making a lifelong friend out of fellow Hellraiser Dennis Hopper, and had a rebellious cachet attached to him because of the themes in the film. Ladies and gentlemen, Jack Nicholson had arrived. Despite his success, however, he is first to acknowledge that the life of an actor is full of ups and downs.
Peaks and valleys, you know. I'll put a real tanker out there next.
In the 70s, however, it seemed Jack could do no wrong. He scored another Oscar nom for 5 Easy Pieces, flexed his funny bone and hit an even wider audience with the saucy romp Carnal Knowledge, and earned yet another Best Leading Actor nod for his raucous performance as foul-mouthed badass Badusky in The Last Detail. He was practically revered for his deeply nuanced turn as a dogged private dick in Roman Polanski's Chinatown, getting another Oscar nom for his efforts, but he was not honoured by the Academy until he received his first Oscar for Best Actor for Milos Forman's superb One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. When his co-star Louise Fletcher took out the award for Best Actress, how did Jack celebrate? Well, he drank champagne from Fletcher's shoe, of course. As the 70s began to wind down and the excessive 80s loomed, a new kind of Jack came out to play in Hollywood. Gone were the subtle shadings he was so famous for, replaced by mugging, over-the-top theatrics and even self-parody. And, like always, his timing was impeccable, because then came The Shining. The film adaptation of Stephen King's famed horror novel was excitingly anticipated, even more so when it was discovered that the eccentric Stanley Kubrick was to direct, and the duo didn't disappoint. Nicholson delivered one of the most over-the-top and bombastic performances as the rapidly diminishing Jack Torrance, and spawned a million mimics and the nickname Mad Jack with his delivery of the infamous line, "Here's Johnny." Nicholson has a presence that radiates right off the Richter scale, and during this period, he was as well known not only for his acting accomplishments, but for his party boy image. He was directed by mate Warren Beatty in Reds, scoring yet another Oscar nom, and finally took home his second Little Gold Man for Best Supporting Actor playing a boisterous and boozy ex-astronaut in Terms of Endearment, perfectly matched by Beatty's sister, Shirley MacLaine. Amongst the subtlety of these performances, there was the other Jack. His frenzied theatrics in The Witches of Eastwick can't be forgotten, and then he took it a step further as the Joker in Batman. As the twisted, psychotic villain, he dominated the screen and audiences lapped it up.
Jack is a very intuitive actor, and he gets into character, and he gets into character well before you start shooting. And, so that by the time he walks onto the set, he feels very clear and strong about the character. So when you're shooting, it's great because that's when you toy around with the levels of how broad to go. And I mean, there was always a question, how much do you laugh? Are people gonna go nuts hearing this laugh all the time? So, we tried it always a couple of different ways, since he's so strong with the character, you can play a bit. So it was quite fun.
And play around he did. His reluctance to commit to a relationship earning him the cheeky nickname of Jack the Jumper. And when he confessed to his partner of 12 years, Angelica Houston, that he'd knocked up a waitress at one of his restaurants, she beat him up. He was, and still is, one of Hollywood's biggest playboys, and he's not ashamed of the fact.
I am about a lot of fun. I've never been any different. I like a good time, too much, I've been reined in and scolded at almost every juncture of my life, but nobody hates me for it. I'm easy to rein in, but I do. I'm a little bit, overcharged by fun, so to speak. I look for it like gold.
But back to the acting. Jack was in blistering form in A Few Good Men, giving pop culture yet another Nicholson cracker with his famous delivery, "You can't handle the truth." Another Oscar nom came his way, but it wasn't until a couple of years later, as the obsessive-compulsive homophobe Melvin Udall in As Good As It Gets, that Jackie Boy scored another gold man, which despite decades of nominations, he didn't take lightly.
I dropped about 3 quarts of water the minute they said my name, and up until then I was numb. I'm looking around like you are at Stars, and I feel almost like I shouldn't be here. When I saw my picture come up on the television set, I was kind of shocked,
As a boy, Jack was attracted to Hollywood by his love of films, and despite his huge and ongoing success, still surprisingly thinks it all comes down to luck. Lady luck, that is.
All comparisons are odious, as my mother told me. I always have a good time working. I suppose those of you who know anything about me know I've always worked with good directors. I'm real good. I choose material well, and after that, I think I'm lucky.
I think a few people might disagree there, Jack. When he is working, he is professionalism personified, as his co-stars noted after sparring with Jack.
I was so pleased that he's so prepared, because you never know when you're working with somebody who's very well known or somebody whose work you might have admired over the years, what they're going to be like. And he was always incredibly professional, on time, knew his lines, was more than that. He just was plugged into the character and just a hard-working actor, just like everybody else. And I was so gratified to find that was true, that he does his work well. He deserves, all of the wonderful things that have come his way.
Jack had another monster on his hands in The Departed, a who's who mafia ensemble piece directed by the director of all directors, Marty Scorsese.
He's this force of nature that just comes onto set, and you have to sort of roll with the punches. And he's very unpredictable when he's on camera, and then that camera starts rolling, you know anything can happen. And it's really exciting as a young actor to be able to play against that, there were moments in this film where I didn't know what was going to happen next. I didn't know what he had under the table. I didn't know what he was going to bring out.
What he brings to any kind of film, he lights up a screen when he walks on, because he does weird things, He does mad things, and you've really got to be on your toes, when you're opposite Jack.
At the core of Jack Nicholson, it's a child bursting to get out. Eternally youthful, he has a thirst for knowledge and fun. Women have certainly been one of Jack's passions. The other, his beloved LA Lakers basketball side. He has been a season ticket holder since 1970 and is courtside for every game, intimidating the refs and making his point known. Such is his clout, directors have been told to work their shooting schedule around the games. Aside from that, he avoids the media spotlight. He doesn't give interviews and hasn't appeared on a talk show since 1971. Jack's views on that particular subject?
Not good for the actor.
More recently, Jack starred in The Bucket List, opposite Morgan Freeman, which had director Rob Reiner in heaven.
To me, Jack Nicholson is, he is the greatest living actor that we have in America. And I have a relationship with Jack, and I would never call him up and say, here's a part in a movie, unless I thought it was something he'd be interested, would want to do, and would be good to do. And so I called him up and I said, here's the thing, I'm gonna direct it and Morgan is gonna do it, and would you want to play this part? And he read it and he called me back and he said, absolutely.
Now almost an octogenarian, Jack Nicholson is still a man resistant to rules. One-time girlfriend Lara Flynn Boyle likened dating him to dating a king. He's extremely talented, experienced, charismatic, well-connected, has won 3 Oscars over 5 decades, and is extremely wealthy. So long live King Jack. Stay tuned to Starfix for all the movies you know and the actors you love. Broadcast in high definition with 5.1 surround sound where available. For more of the best in entertainment news, check out your Movie Network channels. Find or follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube and mnc.tv.